When you read the books of First and Second Kings, it's really hard to miss the point that the way that the kings behaved had a profound effect on the lives of their people. That seems pretty obvious, and you can read the 8th century prophets and find exactly the same thing. Although the 8th century prophets, shading into the 7th century prophets, did begin to observe that individuals were responsible for themselves and shouldn't blame their parents or the king or anybody else. But it's hard for us, I think, to think about the effect that we have on the lives of other people. I have some really wonderful notes from previous students that I keep because they help me remember that the way that I live my life, it has an effect on other people. Here's one, a young lady named Kirsten, who was in a church history class that I taught. She says, there was one particularly monumental day that is forever ingrained in my memory. You asked the females to stay after class. I remember your empowering message about women in ministry and never letting anyone tell us we couldn't do ministry. Your sensitivity and encouragement will always be remembered. She also worked in the office of the School of Religion there, and so because that's where my office was, we interacted. She said she absolutely loved working in the religion office and being able to interact with you. I've witnessed your caring heart towards students and your passion for missions. Thank you so much for your kindness, sensitivity, and words of wise counsel. Okay, I didn't read that just to say, oh, I'm so great, or that sort of thing. But as a reminder, it's not just some of the things I do have an effect on other people. Everything that you and I do affects other people, for good or for bad. We're like farmers scattering seed, and we get to choose. Are we going to scatter seed that grows into something healthy and nutritious and beneficial, or are we going to sow weeds? Well, we get to choose that. I don't know. It seems that we're so self-centered. I know I am. I always think about myself. A pastor who he was a very good preacher. He really wasn't that good with people, but he was a really good preacher. And he had a sentence that he used one time that really has stuck with me. With one small exception, the entire world consists of others. With one small exception, the entire world consists of others. How much attention do I give to that? The fact that I'm surrounded by other people who have other views and perspectives, other experiences in life. And when I'm in their presence, the way that I live my life has some kind of influence on them. I hope that believers will remember that the things that we do in the grocery store and at the bus station and while waiting for a red light to turn green, the way that we behave, that has an impact on other people. When I was a director of student ministries in Oregon, there was a student who was he had a single parent home. He and his mom they'd been the only two taking care of each other in his life. And he asked me one day if I would mentor him. He wanted to be discipled, was the way that he put it. I knew what he meant by that. I said, yes, I will, but Chuck, here's what it's going to mean. You have to do, whatever I tell you to do. And he said, okay, great, that'll be wonderful. And we set up a time to come over to my house. So the first day that he came over to my house, he arrived, came in, introduced him to my family, and then I told the boys, okay, I got 2 sons, that go get in the car, and Chuck, let's go get in the car. So we all 4 of us got in the car, and we went to the grocery store. And as we shopped, the boys I'd tell them we need oatmeal. You know what kind of brand we use, and so they'd go get the oatmeal and that sort of thing. Chuck and I would chat, and we got home, and Chuck helped put the groceries away, bring the sacks in, and that sort of thing. And then I said, "Okay, Chuck, this is great. Well, I'll see you next week." He seemed a little perplexed, but he left. So the next week he came back, and my wife met him at the door and said, "He's out in the backyard. Go ahead back there. You can just come through the house." And so he came into the backyard, and I said, "Look, there's some cardboard over there. Maybe you want to get a little bit so that you don't get your knees dirty. Come over here. I've got an extra pair of gloves. We're pulling weeds out of the garden." So we pulled weeds out of the garden, and it went on like that. Every time that Chuck came over, we did something just absolutely ordinary, until finally he said, when are we going to get to the discipling business? And I said, "Chuck, here's what I can teach you, what I know. I can teach you, this is my life, and I can teach you out of that. If you want to learn from me, then you have to participate in my life." He finally got it. He finally understood, and he was thankful afterwards. Living the Christian life is not about withdrawing to some monastery or going through some specific spiritual disciplines. It's about living your life every day in a way that impacts others in a beneficial way. That's what it is, the Christian life. So, when you're sitting at that light, or when you've been cut off in traffic, I encourage you to remember, with one small exception, the entire world consists of others.